Hello and welcome to a new video I've been wanting to make since Kingdoms released, basically. It's just like a short, like, what do you do on like day 0 and day 1 of Kingdoms, and how do I like approach the game as like someone who has beaten Bloodmoon a few times already, and how do I like start the runs to like set myself up for success. Because the early game is probably the most important part of Kingdoms, because if you have a good early game, you will have a good mid game, and if you have a good mid game, you will have an absolutely absurd late game, and if you have an absurd late game, you win the run. That's how it works, basically. That's like how consistent gameplay works in general. It's been like this in Dark Dungeon 1, it's been like this in pretty much every video game, where like if the early game is good, you will have a good mid game and a good late game. And that's why I think like the very first step on creating your campaign, just like getting into the game, and actually like building your first team and like the first day at the first inn is very impactful, and it just tells you like a bit about how I like to play the early game in general, and how I like specifically do these like first few actions in the actual run. And so far, Kingdoms has only been released. It's been only like 2 weeks, so this might be a bit early for a guide like this, because I don't have like the most experience with this game yet, or like with this game mode yet. Not with the game. I have played enough Darkest Dungeon 2 in my opinion to like be able to make a guide. But for Kingdom specifically, I don't think I've played enough to like make an absolute statement on a lot of this stuff. So if you are watching this in like a few months in the future, this will most likely have changed, because the meta will shift and there's gonna be updates. There's already been like one pretty decent meta shakeup on experimental right now. I'm on retail, so it's not affecting me right now. I do want to like play on experimental a bit more, but it's pretty much just a straight buff to my strategy, so whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just like an current mode of retail, and just in general, like, if stuff changes, don't listen to this video, because it will be wrong, it will be very old, and we can't have a DD1 situation where people take like advice from like a guide that was made like 7 years ago. We can't be having that again. So I'm saying it here, I've been too scarred from that, and I've complained too much about that to like not have like a disclaimer like this at the start of the video. So yeah, let's get right into it. Let's make a new thing. I'm just gonna speed through this.
The Beast Clan.
He's gonna yap. I'm gonna pick Ridgeline. I'm gonna pick Bloodmoon. It doesn't really matter. Like, you can pick. Stop talking, wait, Joe. I'm trying to make a guide here. SMH.
The crossroads. A beacon for the broken and the battered.
But yeah, all of that before, it just doesn't matter, like the setup. You can play whatever you want. A lot of this stuff is specific to Bloodmoon, and I've played Bloodmoon the most, because I just didn't play any other difficulty. I just jumped straight into Bloodmoon, so that's what I'm used to. You can play this on like other difficulties, though. Just do whatever you like. If you can pick skill sets, it's a bit different, because I'm playing with randomized skill sets on Bloodmoon, so I'm used to like not being able to pick like the starting skills. It might be different on the, if like you can actually pick your skills in like the lower difficulties, but this is about Bloodmoon, so yeah, whatever. The first thing that's important is actually at the crossroads, and picking the first team is extremely important, because how the game works at the very start is that you get 4 heroes. Those 4 heroes are guaranteed because you pick them. The rest of the heroes are like 3 of them don't show up on the campaign at all. So there's a chance that like if you have like a hero that you really like and you don't pick them at the start, there's a chance they won't show up at all during the campaign. You can't ever play with them. The other thing is like good quirks. If you have like a really good quirk, like for example, you have like a Breacher on a frontliner, then that hero is like really valuable to pick early, because they might not show up. The other thing is that if you load into a new campaign, you will have like your 4 heroes, plus like 1 will always spawn at your starting in. So you technically have the option to like swap into a new hero if you want to. This might be good if you have like a hero that might be good later, but early on they aren't very strong. But I'll get into that a little bit later to explain like why that is important. But if you have someone that you don't want, like your starting 4 for the first few regions, you can pick them and then you just swap them off immediately for like whatever is at the first inn. But that obviously runs risk. If you have like a frontliner, for example, you have like a flagellant, you really want to save, and then it's like you get like a Vestal and at the first inn. It's like you can't just swap out flagellant for Vestal. That just doesn't work. But whatever. The rest of the heroes are just gonna be spread out around the map, so they don't have like immediate access to you and you don't have like, immediate access to them. And yeah, so pretty much just plan around like your first four heroes to be strong, and they have to work together as like a unit. Now, the important part about building a good early team is, at first, the first thing I always recommend doing is to just click through like every hero and see which quirks they have. There's always a chance that someone really insane shows up with like an absurd positive quirk and like no negative quirk, and you just pick them immediately just because of that insane positive quirk. Like for PD, Sanguine is like solid, Raconteur, Pyromaniac is like okay, Daredevil is really good, Grudge Bearers kind of sucks, but Daredevil is really good. Tangled Edition, Light Sensitive kind of sucks. Hardskin is really good for Hellion. Natural Swing Jester, that's quite nice. Field Surgeon, okay. Field Surgeon is like one of those where like I would actually just pick the hero just for Field Surgeon because it's a really good quirk, and losing out on like a quirk like this is rough. So Leper is really good. Vicious, Head Injury really sucks. Builder is good. Generous is okay. Like all of these are just kind of okay. Like Unerring is kind of good on A-Bomb, but the big hit here is obviously Leper. Field Surgeon is insane. Fanatic Fearing is just kind of not that big a deal. So just because of that quirk, Leper's most likely going onto the team, right? Because he has like a really good quirk.
Making peace with adversity is the very essence of existence.
And if you have something like this, it's always a good starting point to just pick like any one hero with like a really good quirk, because it just gives you like an idea. Okay, this is what I'm starting here with. I need to build around this hero, or like I need to like build a team that fits around this hero. And Leper is obviously like a great example because he very much has like a very good role, or like a very specific role, and you want to like build a team specifically towards him, with like the potential to make him like work in the late game in case he like hits like some insane damage spike with like insane trinkets, and then like he becomes really good damage. That's what you want to plan for. And the other benefit of this Leper is that this is not a what I like to call a prospective pick. What I mean by that is that there are certain heroes, and on like this roster even, that are not good in the early game, but they will get like, good in the late game. A good example for this is always Hellion. I like to just pick on her a bit, because this Hellion starting kit ignores Adrenaline Rush. So, Adrenaline Rush is not guaranteed, so on Blood Moon this could just not be equipped. You could get like any other skill, for example you get like Iron Swan maybe. But even with Adrenaline Rush, like this kit is not exactly good early game. Like, Work Attack is solid, Yorp is just not that good, unless you get the upgrade when you can stun maybe, or if you play Carcass. But Yorp isn't all that. If it bleeds, also not all that. Toto has nothing to support and it isn't good without the mastery. Adrenaline Rush is good, just in general, but ignore Adrenaline Rush. Just pretend like this isn't Adrenaline Rush, it's some other skill that she has, like, I don't know, Bleed Out. I don't think she can actually roll to Bleed Out. Just Bloodlust. She can roll to Bloodlust. Imagine this is Bloodlust. That's a terrible kit. Like, you have one damaging move, a very bad taunt move. If she didn't have a hard skin, she would be terrible as like a tank. And Adrenaline Rush. Yorp isn't great. Like, she just has like very bad early game. She really needs a path to be good because Ravagers is a straight upgrade. She really wants like Toto mastered to get that Winded Cleanse, and you want like obviously Howling End. And something like Iron Swan to like help you deal good damage with her. And without those tools, she's kind of just not a good hero, and she's more of like a hero you pick if you know, okay, I'm gonna get like this hero, she's gonna be good late, but she's not gonna be good early. And the antithesis to this is an early game hero that's just good immediately, and a good example for this is this Leper, for example. Because Leper early, Chop is just okay damage, like if you have combo it's great, Solemnity is absurd, Intimidate is absurd, and Intimidate, like the upgrade you don't care about, this just doesn't exist as an upgrade. You don't care about like ignoring stealth and like 1 extra damage, you don't care. And Solemnity obviously gets better, but even at the base level it's really good. And this just gives him like a complete kit with these 3 skills, because everything else just doesn't matter with him too much. Like these are his core skills. And having these core skills allows him to just get like a lot of value early game, and you don't need to like give him like any mastery to perform. Obviously, like later you do want to give him mastery. Withstand is a good pick. There's a lot of like other utility moves you can get, like Purge for example. And losing all of them does hurt, but he has this like core 3 skill kit that makes him really good early game. The other thing about Leper, like, you don't always roll into Solemnity, you don't always roll into Intimidate, obviously. But in this case, this Leper is a good early game hero. Another hero that's just good early game, like every time basically, is Highwayman. Because you always get Wicked Slice. And just having Wicked Slice always just gives him like a good early game damage leash, just hit enemies and deal like okayish damage. Not even okayish damage, it's just good damage. And having something like that on your team is very important early game, because you want to be able to just get the team at like a high power level with just the 2 initial mastery points. And having someone like Leper who can basically fill his role as like kind of damage and like really good tanking is extremely cool, because it basically allows him to like take away the pressure from like the mastery points and put them onto like other heroes that need them more than than he does. And like, for example, like Chop Upgrade, it's good, but you don't need it early, and that's kind of like what you want as from like at least 2 of your heroes. Now, going from here, we have Leper as like our defensive piece and like potential damage. So what we need is pretty much like, we need damage, we need recovery in terms of like HP and like healing and stress healing, and that's just kind of it. Like those 2 are like the bases we need to cover. And like maybe to combo with Leper, we need some combo application. The first hero that comes to mind with that is probably Jester. Natural Swing is also really good. That's why like he's probably gonna go on this team. Natural Swing is insane because he has like all melee skills, and as long as he keeps attacking, he's applying combo with these 2 skills, and that just comes with Leper. Really good. Stress healing is immediately there because of Inspiring Tune. So he's just going on the team, pretty much.
A murderous melody lingers long after the final chord has been struck.
The other benefit with Jester here is that like he doesn't really need mastery to be good. Razor's Wit, Fade to Black, and Inspiring Tune is just like good buttons to press. Battle Ballad and like Harvest are like okay, but these 2 and like Inspiring Tune are just really good. It allows him to fill his role. He deals like a bit of damage, applies a bit of combo, he blinds a bit, he has like a bit of Inspiring Tune to stress heal. Just a good pick. Natural Swing is also just a good quirk to have, and so these 2 together just don't need any investment at all. They are basically already at like a good power level, and I don't want to invest mastery into those 2 heroes, because I can just play with like Fade to Black Razors with Inspiring Tune as like a baseline and just have like a good hero, right? Same with Leper, like he doesn't need paths. Same with Jester, they don't need paths. They just have their buttons, they press them, and they just do a good job. Like later on, sure, you can get paths, you can specialize them a bit, you can give them like more mastery for like some good skills, but right now these 2 are just good to have. Now, the issue with this team is obviously healing. We have no healing. Like, we do have Solemnity, but that's just not good enough. And for that, like, Plague Doctor is obviously a good choice. Sanguine is good. Curmudgeon kinda sucks, but Sanguine is good. The issue with PD here is that she doesn't have Flare Grenade, so she's not dealing a whole lot of damage, and she only has 1 of her heals. So Plague Doctor normally like would be a great pick, I think, but in this scenario, kind of difficult. Like, you really are only getting Noxious Blast and Battlefield Medicine, and these 3 skills just aren't all that, so you need to invest a lot of mastery into her to get both Plague Grenade and most likely Indiscriminate Science to like make her good. And so PD I just don't think is good for this team. She might be good if she doesn't show up, it's kind of fine because her base kit is just so bad. The other one is Occultist, as like a healer. He has no combo application. He's gonna eat combo with Sack Stab. He has like nothing to pay off. He has like 2 skills right now, and like maybe 1 hex, but this also really isn't a good kit. Vestal is just always difficult to pick. Like, this one is just basically unpickable. You have Grace, you have Hand of Light. That's it. No Judgment. Like, difficult. Like, if you get Judgment early, maybe, but she really wants a path, and it's just like, eh, I don't like her here. Fledgling could be solid. Builder is good. He doesn't have good healing yet. He doesn't have more. He doesn't have Sepsis, which is really important as Wanderer. You do have Lashes Gift, but this is actually like a solid enough kit. He might be a consideration. Builder's also really good because more materials are quite huge. So he's most likely to pick. And Crusader's the last one you can look at. He doesn't even have a seat right now. So it's probably just always going to be Flagellant.
Zealotry. An undying blight upon the soul.
Flagellant is a solid enough pick here. He has like okay damage. He can off-tank as well later. The main tank is probably just going to be Leper. But if I ever find like something really good for Leper to go into like full damage, then I'm not pressing Intimidate, I'm not pressing Withstand, then Flagellant can take over as like the sole tank of the team. And that's actually quite good. So it's probably just Flagellant here. And like, if I just taunt with both of them turn 1, it's like, okay, fine. The other benefit right now is that like Flagellant's healing is really not online yet. Undying by itself is kind of eh. But I do have Leopard to taunt with Intimidate, and I have Field Surgeon and Solemnity, so he can probably just take care of like a lot of the damage by himself. Now, for rank 4, it's probably going to be a Runaway, because I just want more damage on this team. There's a lot of heroes you can pick, like Bounty Hunter's kind of solid. He doesn't have great damage right now, he only has like Collect Bounty. It's like Highwayman, he's always good. Grave Robber even, but there's no real synergy here. With Runaway,
nothing remains save a burning will to survive.
You have a really bad quirk and head injury, but you do get Firefly, which is huge, and you get Cauterize, which is also huge. Like, these two are both really good skills. You don't always roll into Cauterize, but you always get Firefly, and later on you can get Smokescreen for, like, even more combo in case, like, Leper starts popping off, right? And I think this team is just fine. You have, like, solid healing from, like, 2 sources, and Leper's just insane tanking, so that's also cool. In terms of mastery, like, Runaway is okay. You can get Smokescreen, you can upgrade Firefly. This is just kind of, like, fine. Flatron is, like, the big prospective pick on this team, because he wants, like, more. He wants Sepsis, he wants Deathless. Like, those are 3 skills he really wants on Wanderer, so I'm mostly gonna give those to him relatively soon, so he's, like, the mastery sink, basically. And, like, Leopard doesn't need anything, and while, in my opinion, like, with this team, you have one just good pick that's, like, between, like, a good now and, like, a good later pick. You have Jester as a good now pick, you have Leper as a good now pick, and you have Flagellant as, like, a more prospective pick on this team. And this is, like, a good ratio. You can always just go, like, 4 good now picks, but what's important is, like, you have, like, a good synergy, and you don't have, like, heroes that are just more good later. Because right now, the reason Flagellant is here is, like, a good later pick, or, like, as a prospective pick, it's not, like, because, oh, he's, like, manageable, right? It's more that, like, every other hero that can fill this role, which is healing, is even more prospective than he is right now. Because PD, again, Noxious Blast as, like, your only damage, really not all that. Occultist with, like, 2 skills, also not all that. Vestal, not all that. Crusader, he doesn't even have a seal. So that's where it's at, and because of that, I think Flagellant is the best pick here to benefit, like, to complement this team, and that's, like, why I'm running it. This is most likely not the team that you keep for, like, the final boss, because this team is really bad against the final boss, and yeah, it's just a good now pick. It beats, like, the first 2, or, like, the first region with only 2 mastery points. You can go very aggressive, because you have these 2 heroes that just don't need any mastery to be, like, at high power. One hero that, like, likes mastery but doesn't need it at all, and one pick that needs the mastery pretty much and exclusively by himself. Like, I'm probably gonna get, like, Sepsis, and I'm most likely gonna get more for Flagellant. The rest, yeah, they just ignore the mastery, they will be fine, but I really need, like, especially more, I think. But let's get right into it. I'm gonna skip this part now, and I'm gonna... Actually, no, I'm not gonna skip this part. There's one more thing I want to talk about, which is this thing right there.
Onward once again, though all the world's horrors bar the way.
It's this thing. There's one specific thing you should always pick on this event, and it's the Sagebrush items. These are always the best one, because they help every team at once. With, like, a trinket only helps one specific hero to get stronger. With this, you help your entire team. It generates more resources, which is extremely important early. It gives you value, which is what you need early, because it's very difficult to get, like, the money to get combat items. So if you can get anything that generates those, it's really good. If you get a food generator, that's huge. If you get SA gear, that's absurd, basically. And that's why I think you should always get a Sagebrush item.
An unexpected find.
Food Barrel's kind of a low roll. It's just okay. It takes it off the pool at least, so it can't show up again, and you have, like, a higher chance of finding, like, a better Sagebrush gear. That's pretty much, like, this thing's effect right now. Later on, it just obviously becomes, like, active. You can actually, like, get inventory space with it, but early game, one, you don't have the food, and 2, you don't have 10 food to get, like, resolute chance. Just don't get a resolute check. It's that easy. But yeah, I'll see you all at the inn. Alright, and here we are again at the inn. You always get, like, the Sagebrush item to get the spyglass, and I would recommend just equipping it immediately. It's just good.
Good. An improvement.
It gets the quest going. You have enough status item slot space anyways. And going to our watchtower with this thing equipped progresses the quest. I'm just gonna spoil this kind of for you, but whatever. You don't care. You most likely don't care. But the first step is you just go to the watchtower. You get 2 mastery for it, which is huge. And that's why I always recommend equipping it and like going to the watchtower very quickly. Because 2 mastery for free. Love that. Now, the thing I recommend you do is always first, like, you have to check the map, basically, because the game forces you to. But you always want to check the map and just, like, take a look around. I didn't get any hero spawn here. I thought I was guaranteed, to be honest. Oops. But yeah, this is a really good inn, but you always get, like, 1 siege on the first day, so you have to be careful. You have to know where it is. I got it on a really good inn. Sometimes inns come with, like, a few upgrades. This one just gave me, like, conscript fighters, so that's cool. I just have these guys now. Sure. You always want to like check these 2 where like the underground stuff is. This is always important. Be aware where like underground network starts and ends, because this helps you a lot with pathing. Never forget about underground. Then there's like the hidden treasure that always spawns. It's kind of sometimes worth going for if you can, but very often it's just not worth, because it forces you into a certain pathing. You don't want to be like that inflexible. Always like think, okay, will I be fine? Can I go there? Like, usually I end up not being able to. It actually came with provision upgraded. That's quite nice. But I just like to like click through these, just see like what is upgraded. Like I have another one with barracks. It's quite useful. But like while you are thinking, you can click through these, see if something's there. Provision upgraded. Not bad. Like this is a really good start, to be honest. Like there's 4 ends that already have like an upgrade, so that's huge. Provisional like this is fine. There's actually some decent stuff in here. Telescope would have been nice. Kind of. There's some good stuff. Crow's Nest. Some okay trinkets, but you don't really care too much. The important thing you always want at the first inn is to look at your team and decide if you actually want to like get one of these 2. There are some teams that just want like new skills. For example, like with my Flagellant. Like if I just want like new skills, which I most likely just want, because more and sepsis are really good. But I'm probably only gonna get like, maybe I'm not gonna get more because I have Leper already taunting, and this kid is just good enough. Because Lazarus Gift can kind of feel like the sepsis role for now, just healing himself for like a pretty big amount. And like the stress doesn't matter because I have Leper. He just presses one of these 2 buttons and just stress heals, so whatever. So what I'm mostly gonna do is what I recommend most people do, and most teams do, which is not even getting the specialist instructor. What I recommend you do is just get Gymnasium, or Gymnasium, however you pronounce this, or Gymnasium as in German. But yeah, I just recommend you get this, because mastering user skills is a huge power boost, especially if it's just pure damage upgrades. What I'm gonna get here is Firefly. Firefly, you can actually see the skill, but it gives you 5 burn and like a bit of extra on-hit damage. But I'm gonna get that. And the reason for this is very simple. You want early power. The issue early game is that you fall over too quickly because enemies just hit you in the face and you fall over. And while this might seem like, oh, you get more damage, you get more HP, you have like more resist, right? Like, that's easy. It really isn't. Like, especially if you take very aggressive routing and you go for like maximum mastery, which you really want, it's very easy to fall into a trap where like you are overconfident kind of, and you go into like an extra fight and you just get stabbed in the face like twice and your hero dies. That can happen very quickly. And that's why I recommend you pick for early power instead of like potential power in the late game. Like this team is very much not like a team that I would pick like late game, because their synergy is like okay, but they aren't like super good. They aren't great for the boss. So it's just like, yeah, they are good, but not like the best, right? Like if you want to pick like the best team, for example, like yes, you can do that, but most of the time those heroes require so much investment to be good and to work together that like it's just not good early. And early game is the most difficult part of the game because you have no mastery and you need to get like through a region. and that's very difficult. And on Ridgeline especially, there's a high chance you spawn into like one of these two inns, which mean you have to go to a camp where you can't upgrade, and then you have to go a second region, and then you get like to upgrade. This middle inn is especially bad because you don't only have to go to one region, you have to go through two different ones. So if your team is good into one region, like up here, it's like, okay, if my team is good again into the Shroud, I'm just good, right? If your team is bad into like Tundra and Sprawl, like into one of those, that's rough. And that's why like this, and you can like specifically unlock skills to make yourself better into the Shroud. And a pretty good example for this is this team actually with Shroud, because Leper out of rank 1 loses Intimidate, which is like his most important skill on this hero right now. So not exactly great. And because of that, I might actually get Specialist Instructor and just like give him Withstand, which will help with that, to give him like more move resist, for example. But I don't think I will. I'm confident that this team is fine. Like worst case, like Fladron gets moves up, but this team has enough recovery right now that they can probably handle it. Again, but like if you find like a good trinket for that, you can like buy it as well to help with that. And yeah. But what you need is early power in general, and Firefly helps with that. It gives you like really big damage. 5 points of burn is really good, especially combined with like an extra on-hit damage. And that's all you want early game. You just need power. And that's why I recommend you don't actually like get new skills. You should focus on like making the skills you have as good as possible. And I think like upgrading skills is much more impactful than getting like new good ones. Like I think upgrading Firefly is more impactful than unlocking like Smokescreen. Because Smokescreen as like a base level isn't good. Like it's just kind of like okay. If you master it, it's great. But that's 2 mastery points worth of investment to get one really good skill, right? And that's what you really don't want, because you want to have 2 skills that are really good. And one way to get that is Firefly upgrade, because it's 1 mastery point for 1 good skill. If I invest both into Smokescreen, that's 2 points for 1 good skill. The same reason why I don't actually want to get like Sepsis or More, because More by itself is kind of just like okay, especially next to Leper, and like base More isn't all that. So, like Sepsis is a bit different, it's just good by itself, so getting it is actually like a consideration, but getting those 10 in items just to get like 1 good skill is also just rough. Because again, you could just get this, and just get like 2 good skills instead of like spending 10 extra to get like 2 good skills as well, right? Like early on, it's all about like getting that good skill to like resource ratio. And the best ratio, in my opinion, is to just get like 1 upgrade and get 2 good mastered skills. That's like, in my opinion, the best thing to do. And in line with like upgrading Firefly, I'm probably gonna get Fade to Black upgraded. It's a slight damage increase. It gives him combo on Fade to Black, which is quite nice. Because it allows like Leper to immediately open up like the chop with damage. It helps Fladron with punish, and it can help like run away with Firefly. So it has a lot of synergy with the team, and I think like getting Fade to Black is probably worth it over as like my best skill. There's not like anything else that's like as good. Like there's obviously you can get punish. Red of Souls is actually also quite good to like clear out the backline, which honestly might be worth a thought. But I think Fade to Black gets like that same where it helps you clean out the backline, and because I have Runaway Firefly already upgraded, and it hits combo and then it deals like a lot of burn, I think like getting Fade to Black upgraded is probably the right play here, so I'm gonna get it. The other thought is like upgrade Inspiring Tune to get like better relationships from like less stress, but I don't think you actually need to like get a good stress heal in the first region. Like as long as you have like some form of stress healing, you will be fine. And Inspiring Tune is just good enough at a base level. If you have like Inspiring Cry on Crusader at like a base level, that's also good enough. Bolster is a bit different. Like that skill needs like its mastery point to actually be like a good stress heal. But yeah, whatever. This is not the case. I have Inspiring Tune, and this skill is just good enough by itself. The upgrade is obviously nice to have because it gets you like below that 4 stress threshold for like good relationships easier. But honestly, like early game relationships, like they don't really matter. If you get like a bad one, it's like you don't get like any other skill that's like getting hit by the relationship, so you don't have to like change the way you play. And even if you get like a hit, like a skill you haven't equipped yet, you most likely have like another skill on that hero that you don't care about, that you just unequip and get like your good skill back in. And if like a good skill gets hit, it's like it sucks, but it is what it is. the chance for that isn't enough. And even if you just play well, you can just not take stress. And I think just getting like a stress seal upgrade, like Inspiring Tune, is just not worth it early, in my opinion. Like I've tried it quite often, but I often just don't end up pressing that, and it just feels like a wasted mastery point. And once again, these 2 mastery points need to count. You have to be the region with like very low power in general. It's less power than in Confessions, because in Confessions you get a pet, you get like a lot more money, you get a lot more status gear, you get a path, you get pets, and you just don't get any of that in like Kingdoms. So you have to be even more careful with the stuff you have early, and those mastery points need to go in like really good skills. And I think Fade to Black and Firefly are the best skills on this team, and that's why I'm going to upgrade them. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is hero movement on the first in. The way I like to do this early on is to immediately just look at who I have in like this slot and just immediately craft like 2 teams. The way I like to build teams in Kingdoms is I need 1 team from these 8 heroes to take on the final boss at the end. I want them to like specifically work together, and I need like specific counters for the final boss. This will be different on like the next Kingdom expansions, because the final boss will be different. But for this one, you really want like positive token clear. And if you look at these heroes, there's 2 options that like immediately pop out. The first one is obviously Vestal. She's always going to be on a final boss team for me. Illumination on Confessor is absurd for the final boss. It's probably like one of the, maybe even the single best skill for that fight. And so it's always going to be Vestal. She's just core of the team now. She's always going to be the rank 3, rank 4 hero. Now, to pick around that, it's probably going to be A-Bomb. A-Bomb on, what's his name, Moribund is really strong. And being able to like use Instinct to also steal tokens from the final boss is really good. And if you pair him with like one of the hatchets, he can steal 2, which just completely denies the boss for a turn. Same with like Vestal Judgment, which just denies the boss, like the boss mechanic completely for a turn. So these 2 are just on the team. They can like cycle their token clears, and they can just destroy the boss. Like they can't technically cycle because Instinct is a 2-turn cooldown, but they can pretty much cycle their stuff, and it's just good enough. So these 2. I have a frontliner, I have a backladder, and I just need to like pick around that. Because A-Bomb transforming hits you with a bit of stress, it gives you like stress on everybody else, I want someone who has like good stress healing on the team. And for that, it's probably going to be Crusader. Right? Yeah, it's probably going to be Crusader on this team. He has Inspiring Cry, which heals 2 stress on someone and 1 stress on himself. So it's mostly going to be these 3. He can move in either 2 or in 3 or even in 4 with Banneret. It just doesn't matter. Like these 3 are just very flexible. Crusader is also pretty good for the boss. The last hero, I just need someone who like exists and maybe like some damage. And for that, I think Bounty Hunter is like the perfect hero to fit that role. Like there's some others I could pick, but I think Bounty Hunter is the best. Caltrops is insane. He's just good utility in general. He doesn't need that much investment because he doesn't have a path, so he's just a good pick. So one of the teams is gonna be Vestal. Vestal, A-Bomb, Bounty Hunter, Crusader. That's gonna be one of the teams. The other one just ends up being like Hellion, Grave Robber, Occultist, and Duelist. And with this team, you can already kind of notice that there's very specific paths I have to pick, because this is always going to be Instructrice. I need the Stress Seal. I'm pretty sure it was Instructrice with the Stress Seal. Like, she had one path with the Stress Seal, that's going to be the one that I pick. I don't like that path, to be honest. I don't like Duelist in general, because I'm bad with her. I only don't like Antagonist, but that's it. So I'm probably going to pick her. As like my Stress Healer. Occultist is good healing. She's just self-sufficient, and it's Hellion. What do you expect? So this is going to be the other team. Why can you not move? I can do... Okay, because I still had her selected. Never mind. But this is going to be another team. This is mostly going to be a team I swap into immediately. Do I? Nah. The way I like to like position one of the teams, because Hellion is already here, I like to position one of the teams into like the first in and just do like the first siege with them. And for this one, I think Hellion, Grave Robber, Duelist, and Occultist. they can just move towards this inn and they'll be fine. The other team, what I like to do is to just position them on one of the underground network inns, aka probably the one in the middle, because it's the closest. And I always like hitting up the underground access inns immediately. Like, I always want to hit up this one first, because it's the closer one, and you just want to hit up the closest underground network inn, because it's important to get the access, and early on it's the easiest way to get that, or like the easiest time to get that, because Escalation 2 comes around, you get like a bunch of seizures, and you need to have that underground network up and running, because you need to be able to like traverse the map very quickly. And the underground network is the best way to do that, because you get to like skip 1, 2, 3, 4 days of travel in just one, which is huge. And for like another team that like isn't your main team to double move, that's like 2 days still, so like it's double the time, and you have to like take a lot of fatigue for that. So in my opinion, getting like at least one underground network up and running is very important, and there's like a decent priority to like get the second one as well, but usually like the escalation hits before you can get to that second inn. Because 1, 2, 3, 4 days are up, I can technically make it to the other one with 1, 2, 3, 4, so it actually kind of works out with escalation, but on different mats it might not be possible, and if I hit this in, like I might be, I really want to go into the underground network because it's just very valuable. Why that's so important I get into later, but for now just know it's good. And the reason why I want to position the second team on this is because if I get here, this first team will have done 1, 2, 3, 4 entire regions, and they will most likely be pretty fatigued at that point. Like at minimum, they will have like around 20% on each heroes, like a good benchmark. And with 20% fatigue, I don't really want to take like an entire region, especially not like the underground, right? Because the underground is more difficult and just a bad idea. So I want to have that second team to be ready so I can just swap into them, and I can like immediately invest into them to like get their stuff upgraded, so I can basically upgrade this in to like this point and to get specialist training, so I can get a path and like get them ready for the next inn. And it's like a fresh team, because if you have like a team that just rested at an inn, either by like not doing anything or like not moving, which these heroes will have done, or if you just pass a day by clicking this button right here, they get like a pretty sizable buff. I think I can even show this. No, I can't. But you basically get like a plus 20% damage, plus 20% HP, and plus I think 1 speed buff, which is really good because it's just more stats. And more stats will help you in that difficult region, which is the underground. And just getting like an underground is important. Because underground as a region is one longer than a usual region, which means you get more fights, you get more loot, and more mastery. And getting more loot per day is really huge, because it allows you to like get more resources going to the next escalation and into the escalation surge, where you will have to fight a lot of siege battles. And it allows you to like get resources for that third team, which is gonna be over here, to like upgrade them immediately, so you can go into escalation 2 while having like a team that's already like upgraded to a good point. Because going into the escalation 2 with like a team that's just no mastery is very difficult, because that team will struggle. So having all 3 teams be used and some investment into them by that escalation surge is really important to be able to like fend off all of the sieges without losing heroes, without losing inns. The other thing that's very important is to always pay attention to resources. Resources are key in this mode. Both your mastery, and you always want more fights. There's never a point where you don't want to fight in this mode, because every fight is making you stronger. Because every fight you win, it gives you mastery, it gives you loot, it gives you trinkets, it gives you in items, baubles, relics, common items, everything comes from fights. Because to buy like all of that, you need relics, and you get relics from fights. There's a few like other things that you can get like mastery from watchtowers and stuff, but still the priority is fights. Especially like the road fights, or like the barricades between like when you are moving around. Because those are basically just free fights that give you more loot, while the other like hazardous routes or like empty routes either give you nothing or they actively harm you. And fights are actually beneficial, so go for them. If you see like a fight route, go for it. It might give you mastery. And getting a chance is worth it, definitely. The other thing that's very important is inn materials. Inn materials are huge in the early game, because that first inn you get to, right now it's on retail, it's a bit different than like on experimental, because you really want the specialist training to get like a lot of path reduction. So you can just get this and get like a path for half price. Because right now, if you just get like New Age Techniques, it costs you 24, and it lowers that to 12, which is huge. Because if you can just count like the paths I want going in here, like I obviously want Moribund because it's really good. I want Confessor because it makes Vestal online. Crusader doesn't need one. He'll be fine for now. Maybe I can get like one of his paths later. His paths are more just like a cherry on top rather than like an active part of like that actually changes him like a lot. They do change him, but not like as much as like these two, right? And Bounty Hunter can't get any paths, so I don't care about him. But that's still 2 paths. With this team, Arsonist is a good upgrade, so that's just 3 paths. I might want to swap Flagellant. I don't like him in anything other than Wanderer in this mode very often. I just like Wanderer a lot, so I don't want to spend resources on him. These 2 will be fine. They can just stay in Wanderer. That's like, they still work fully in like the other paths, but I just like them on Wanderer. So that's still 3 paths. That's 36 relics saved by going here. And this could be even more. Like if you have like another hero on this team that wants a path, for example, you really like Scourge, for example. Like you really like Scourge Flagellant. Then this upgrade will save you 4 paths worth of money, which is 48 relics for what's equivalent of like getting 1, 2, and like 30 in materials. On on like experimental, these 2 upgrades are up here. So it's 10 extra to save you 48 relics. That's absurd. You don't get that. Like that's insane. So getting into an inn and getting this upgrade to like get the paths quickly and saving resources that way, is extremely important. Always get this upgrade when you add like the first inn swap or like the first team swap, especially if it's on like a underground network inn, because it's like these are the inns you will most likely go to a lot, because underground is always a good option, especially in Escalation 2, because that's like you go into underground like 5 times in a row. You get so much more mastery than going through like any other region. You don't get quest progress, which is like the downside, but it's still so much stuff. It's so worth it. Like if you have any time at the end of Escalation 2 because you progress the quest fast enough, you just grind underground because you get so much more loot than going through like any other region. It's so valuable. And that's kind of like the reason why underground is so important, and unlocking these underground networks inns is so important, not just for mobility, but also for loot. Always get these. The other thing I want to mention is the Provisioner. You really want to have one in with Grand Bazaar, especially one that's like very central. Like optimally, this is the one you go into Grand Bazaar with. You really want to spawn down here, you go up. This becomes like your in swap or like your team swap, or like even down here, because you're like 1 extra in, which is like extra stuff you can see. You can upgrade it there if you want. You can like recover if you really need to, but you really want to go down here if you spawn in the middle, because then you can just go back to the middle, upgrade this into Grand Bazaar, and then just like keep moving between these to like farm Grand Bazaar value to get like more in materials, to get more upgrades, and to get more money from like that adjacent relic or adjacent region bonus. I like the unique items are decent, and like all of this is quite good because you get more trinkets and status items which help you in the long term and in the short term by giving you a power boost. This other side is really not worth unlocking early if you don't have the resources for it, because in items are short term value only for like a few regions. This will last you the rest of the game if you find something really good. So that's that. That's probably gonna be it from me. Like here, I'm probably going left because more in materials. Love more in materials.
And drowning in amphibious degeneracy.
And I've talked about the teams that I want to run for a bit. It obviously depends on like which heroes you get, but you always want to like plan ahead for like the final boss to have one team ready for that. Obviously stuff changes during the run. If like a hero dies, you might have to like reconsider which team you bring to the final boss, and then you have to like build it anew. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. This is obviously still like my early takes on Kingdoms, but I do think like a lot of these are probably like good meta predictions rather. They aren't like meta things or like how the meta works in my opinion. Like we still have like a few years of like playing Kingdoms left. Like come on now. Stuff will change in the time frame. Jesus. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and if you want to like ask me anything about like what I think about certain stuff and what or why I do a lot of this stuff, you can ask me down in the comments. Or you can come onto my Twitch channel, which I will link in the description, and you can ask me there. I'm pretty much always live, like every day, most of the time. Unless I'm just dying from like something. Or like I'm still stuck in exam hell, which most likely I am when you are watching this. And yeah. Come ask me things. I like answering stuff and going on tangents. As you might be able to tell from it's like 30-minute yap session about Kingdoms early game. But yeah, hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.